to the Blue Zone. It's the New York Football Giants podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Atticus Davis, right here with my man. You want to introduce yourself?
It's your boy Mumar Davis, and on this
Yeah.
podcast, we are just going to be talking New York Football Giants.
Yes, sir.
All right, so first things first. How'd you feel about the game? How'd you feel about the game last week?
Um, I was disappointed with the L. I always want to win as a Giants fan. Sadly, I've become accustomed to losing. So, as much as that game could have brought me to the point of like rage and anger and all of those things, it didn't. Part of the reason why I think is because the week one performance was so incredibly bad. I mean, embarrassing to the core. And, like I said, I was at the game, and it's real painful to see Giant Stadium get taken over by the opposing team's fans. And you had the skull chant going on at one point in the game. And, I'm a diehard fan, so I'm repping my boys, and I'm there for as long as I could have been there anyway. But it was real painful. So week two, we saw a lot of things improve, not just on the play, the quarterback Daniel Jones, but I thought that the coaching staff did a much better job. At least the offensive side of the coaching staff did a better job. We was able to amass some chunks running the ball. Singletary looked good. Tyrone Tracy Jr. looked good. DJ looked good. Malik Neighbors looked great. I think we have certainly an all-pro wide receiver in the making in him. And, we had high expectations of him coming into the season, but to see him produce to the level, if not higher, to what we expected and hoped for as Giants fans, that was really refreshing. A lot of questions about our defense. A lot of
Well,
questions.
but
I mean,
before we
Shane
get there,
Cohen, the defense did a great job of keeping them out of the end zone, but they didn't force a single punt. That was disgusting. How'd you
so
feel?
so with the defense, okay, we have a way of making what I feel to be average or regular quarterbacks look incredible. All right, so we go week one. Sam Darnold, 12 for 12. And we're not talking 12 for 12, 64 yards, you know? We're talking 12 for 12, like 160 yards, you know? And then to go out there against Jaden Daniels, he's 10 for 10. We have this thing where every time I watch a New York Giants game, I hear a negative record being broke on our behalf. I hear, oh, first rookie to come out and start out throwing 10 for 10. This has never happened before, ever. And we're always on the receiving end of that. It's done happened with the 61-yard field goal. I still remember that. It's always some kind of magical fairy dust moment for us. I didn't, like you said before, due to our performance in week one, I didn't hate the game. I do wish we were a little bit more prepared. But to see some of these numbers I got for Malik Neighbors here, um, he leads all rookies in receiving yards. All right, he's eighth in the NFL with yards after the catch, and that's at 108. Fourth in the NFL with total receiving yards at 193. Third with targets at 25. Second at receptions with 15. And first at picking up first downs, and that's with 9 of those. So it was really I liked how they got him involved and kept him involved. You know what that game reminded me a lot of, Unc? I don't know if you remember. Well, I'm sure you remember Victor Cruz's breakout game against Seattle, and he went crazy, easily over 100 yards. He was the reason we was in the game, and the game ended with Eli Manning throwing him the ball, and he couldn't bring it in, and it ended up getting intercepted, and that's how the game ended. Malik Neighbors went crazy the whole game, and when we needed that catch to come in, we couldn't get it done. But overall, I'm excited. I feel like we got a guy.
Well, Malik Neighbors is on pace to have 1,600 receiving yards this year and 7 to 8 touchdowns. I think he'll come somewhere around 1,500 yards and 8 to 9 touchdown receptions, which is something that I welcome and I think is going to be fantastic. But I tell you what, man, the offense didn't get to stay on the field long enough last week. That's
Hmm.
because the defense just gave up huge plays, play after play after play. They couldn't stop the run. They occasionally were good against the pass, but every time they had an opportunity to get the Commanders off the field,
Third
by forcing the
downs.
punt, something went wrong. And it's like you said, there's Murphy's Law and then there's Giants Law. If it could go wrong, it has gone wrong, which is a little bit of a turn of events because in 2022, when the Giants finally made it back to the postseason, Murphy's Law seemed to go away for us for that year. If there was a bounced ball, a fumble, a tip, or whatever, it that season in particular yielded in favor of the New York Giants. But this year, it has been a complete reversal. So, but overall, I thought that it was a better showing. I think that the Giants have an opportunity to beat a Cleveland team who, on paper, is probably better. Certainly defensively, they're better than the New York Giants defense. But the Cleveland Browns are going into this game with problems. Deshaun Watson has been pedestrian at best. In fact, if I'm calling him pedestrian, I'm being generous. He's played like a backup this year. He's got one touchdown, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions over the start of the season. He's averaging just under 170 yards per game passing. His completion percentage is right around 55%. He does have the ability to scramble, which makes him a threat coming out of the backfield. But I don't know that Deshaun Watson is like a Lamar Jackson. I don't know that he's like a Jaden Daniels. I don't know that he poses as much of a threat as a scrambler out of the backfield as Jaden Daniels did, or like I said, a Lamar Jackson did. And I think that that's advantage Giants going into this game, given the fact that we just went through a quarterback who will vacate the pocket and try to pick up some first yards on a scramble. So the New York Giants defensive front is going to be prepared for that and expecting that. So I think that they're going to probably match up well in terms of containing him. Keep in mind, Nick Chubb is on the pup list right now. He's not even active. So they've got James Ford, who has not been performing as admirably as you would want to as a fill-in. Nick Chubb, the Browns are seeing how much they really need Nick Chubb on the field right now with James Ford in his absence.
I would say this: Ford is not somebody I'm willing to sleep on. I've seen I've seen what he's capable of. I'm not gonna hold these first two weeks against him. I think he will be a problem for our boys. One thing that I am super excited about, and this isn't just for like this season. I feel like this is going to be the start of something great for the foreseeable future. Our offensive line is ranked sixth in the NFL right now. And seeing Daniel Jones drop back in the pocket and not have pressure on him every single snap is weird for me. I don't know if it feels weird for you, but I feel like something's wrong. It's such an incredible feeling. Even some of those slants. We were able to do things that we haven't been able to do for a very long time due to the fact that by the time they got where they supposed to be, Daniel Jones already on the floor. So I'm excited about our offensive line. Um, as far as the Browns go and how I feel we're going to stack up in that game, I feel like our team's frustrated. I'm happy that they're frustrated. I'm happy that I feel like they're playing with some kind of passion. I know our defense is fed up. I think for the first time, I seen Dexter Lawrence kind of, yeah, we don't like the booze. We get it, but we don't like it. I think they hear us and they understand that we've been patient enough. With the big three, the Dexter Lawrence, Thibodeau, and Brian Burns. Dexter, he doing his thing. The other two, they could have gotten one sack each in the first two games, and we would have been happy. I feel like quarterbacks have seemed so comfortable against us, comfortable enough to go 12-12 and 10-10. We
Yeah.
need we need to get pressure on Deshaun Watson, and I was hoping that game with Sam Darnold was like the boost we needed because he's not a scramble quarterback. He's going to sit in that pocket, and if we could collapse the pocket like we should have been able to, that would have been a beautiful sign of things to come. But now, I won't lie, I'm a little bit alarmed, just
Yeah.
a little bit. I know they have time to turn it around, and I do feel like we can. I'm at that point where I feel like we can compete with any team on any Sunday, but we got to start doing the little things right. And I believe you mentioned this earlier in the week. We got to get the tight ends involved. We got to
Right.
get them involved in the offense.
Yeah. I'll touch on a couple of things that you said. You talked about our defensive front isn't getting enough pressure. They did pick up 5 sacks last week, which was really good to see, right? I think they did, for the most part, a decent job of containing Jaden Daniels. There was one of those plays where Jaden scrambled for like 15 yards on like a 3rd and 15 or 16 or something like that. And Dexter Lawrence was just grossly held, and the refs didn't call that. And I'm not one to complain at the refs, but I did see that. And I think overall, they have been able to get a little bit of pressure in the middle of that line. But the edges, Thibodeau and Burns have not performed. I have not seen what I need to see from them. And Shane Bowen's defense is predicated, the success that they're going to have is predicated on the ability of your front four to put pressure on the quarterback. If they aren't putting pressure on the quarterback, that next level of linebackers, which we do have some decent linebackers, that's when they can go out into to the middle of the field and they can protect that zone against your tight ends and running backs trying to sneak out there and get the dump offs, and Zach Ertz coming across the middle for 18 yards, just wide freaking open. But if you're not getting pressure on the quarterback from Burns and Thibodeau on the edge, that's a problem. This defense will not function properly. We will not stop teams from getting first down after first down after first down, 20 of 20 to start, maybe 20, not 20 of 20, but 12 of 12 to start the game, 10 of 10 to start the game if you aren't getting pressure. And we have not seen that from those guys. In fact, I thought that we would see more of an impact from Brian Burns, being that he's a seasoned veteran coming into this season, than we would have Malik Nabers. Don't get me wrong, high hopes for Malik Nabers, but I expected Burns to be wrecking shit on that line. He has not done that. The only thing that he was done is wrecked my expectations at this point. And now, going into week 3, he's got a groin injury that held him out of part of practice today. I don't know how effective he's going to be. And you brought up another point, James Ford. I said that without Chubb, the Browns are missing him. And you know what? The New York Football Giants is just a team that James Ford needs to face to look like a perennial All-Pro. He will go out there and rush for 175 yards, 3 touchdowns, and catch a touchdown pass out of the backfield just because he's playing the Giants, and just because I sat here and said that he's not looking that good the first 2 years, the first 2 weeks, and the Browns sorely miss Nick Chubb. I don't know what's going to happen there. I really hope that the defense takes a step forward the same way the offense in week 3. The same way the offense took a step forward in week 2. And I hope as the defense takes that step forward that we so desperately need to happen, that the offense does not slide back. If we can see the same level of performance from the defense this week that we saw from our offense last week, and they can both align and give that same effort as a team, I think we have a good chance of at least being competitive and maybe coming out with a win. And the Giants signed a kicker this week. They got Greg Joseph. He was originally drafted by the Browns in 2018. He spent a couple of 3 years with Tennessee. He spent, I think, the last 3 years with Tennessee, the last 3 years with the Vikings. In fact, he was one of those kickers that you brought up who kicked a 61-yard field goal against the Giants to win the game. He's one of them dudes that did it.
I didn't even know that. I didn't even know
the
that.
Giants just signed him. So
was Graham Gano the other one who did it?
Graham Gano.
Graham Gano
It was
did
Graham
it?
Gano, and he was with the Panthers. I remember that also. It was painful.
Yeah.
So the Giants did do a couple of things to improve. But then, you know what else I'm hearing, nephew? I'm hearing some rumblings about some things coming out of the locker room that, and see, look, it's week 2, right? But people, week 3 now, but people need really kind of fuck down, right? Like, I get it. Like, people are going to say things. People are going to talk. A lot of these things are stories that's planted by the media to stir up dissension and disruption and stuff like that. I get it, right? But it's still so early in the season. And check this out. Every team in our division is 1-1. The Giants are only one game out of being tied for first in the division. Excuse me. However, the Giants are still only 2 games out of taking the lead in the division. So anything is possible. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that that's what the Giants are going to do. I'm just saying it's still that early in the season that anything can happen. And we know that a lot of teams are just one penalty away from having a bad game. And I want to ask you a question, nephew. Should we talk about that 3-yard pass that was dropped by Saquon on that Eagles-Falcons game? Do we want to touch on that at all? Or do we want to just say, y'all can't have no refunds. You can't get your money back. He yours now. We have had those moments time and time. Do we want to talk about that or not?
We are not talking about Butterfinger quads. We're not going to do that. My manager at work, he made fun of Malik Neighbors. He said he had an outstanding game, but when the game mattered the most, he dropped the ball. He said that to me on Monday morning. On Monday night, when the game mattered the most, Saquon dropped the ball. Karma bit him so fast. It was a good day. I came in Tuesday when I opened the door. You heard Return of the Mac playing because I was going in there. I had so much stuff to hit him with. But speaking of the running back position, aside from the fumble, Devin Singletary has exceeded my expectations. I don't know if that is a result of our line, but he's running hard. I thought at a certain point there was going to be one of these rookies we got because we got some solid backs. I thought at a certain point one of them was going to overtake Singletary as RB1. How he's running, that boy is keeping his job. He looks good.
No doubt about it. And the Cleveland defense has not been good against the run this year. They gave up over 4 yards a carry last week. In their most recent game against Jacksonville, Etienne was running all over the place, and they really didn't have an answer for him. Their pass defense was pretty good. They held
ETN.
What I call him, Etienne. Yeah. I don't want to mess up his name. I'm really not trying to do that. I do so much reading these days that I say it the way I read it, right? So ETN. Yeah, and he's a good running back, Like he'll probably average 4.5, 5 yards a carry on some of your better defenses. But I only say that to say, like, the Eagles, the Browns, Myles Garrett, that defense is really good. They got some pass rushers that get after the quarterback. But I think and I think that because they have good pass rushers, it allows for the deficiencies that you might see in a weak secondary to not really show through. But they also have a pretty good secondary. I mean, they got Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, and Martin Emerson, and them boys is balling. They made Trevor Lawrence look pedestrian. And I know the Dallas Cowboys put up 33 points in week 1 against this same Cleveland defense. But you got to keep in mind, they put up 33 points, but half of their points was because they got the ball within scoring position already. And they couldn't move the ball against that defense, so they settled for field goals. So they kicked a bunch of field goals, and that was like half of their points in week 1, which you talked about the protection that Daniel Jones was able to enjoy last week, which, man, that was really nice to see. And I think that a part of what we've seen in the decline of Daniel Jones' play over the past 2 years and the injuries that he suffered from having a terrible offensive line. We even talked about this dating back to Eli Manning, where it was like the Giants just wanted to end his career quickly and make him look bad by not giving him proper protection. And Daniel Jones' career started off that way, right? We are so used to seeing him having to run out of the pocket, design run plays for the quarterback that you really don't want to see for your quarterback, and he's done it well. And he started hearing footsteps and hearing ghosts that weren't there. And with a defense like Cleveland has, I really hope that this line holds up. And this is a game where you want to be in 12 personnel.
And we need Andrew Thomas to be Andrew Thomas. He don't need to be nobody else.
I'm not concerned with AT. I think he's going to do his job on that left side. I think you're definitely going to want to chip on the right side, but you also talked about getting those tight ends involved. Chip, get out into the flat, get open, pick up 3 yards. You start seeing some of those, and then that's going to eliminate some of that pressure because they got to think about these guys sneaking out.
Now, you mentioned that they made Trevor Lawrence. You said somebody made Trevor Lawrence look pedestrian.
Myles Garrett and
yeah. So it's not that they made him look that way; it's that he is that way. But he doesn't play for the New York Giants, so it's not received that way. If you look at Trevor Lawrence stats next to Daniel Jones stats, if you said Trevor Lawrence stats was Daniel Jones stats and vice versa, it's crazy how similar their stats are. But you don't get as much recognition when you are a New York Giant. For whatever reason, I understand that we have not been good throughout the years, but in the words of Jay, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. And their numbers are very close. But I feel
you know why I say that? I say that because they did the same thing to Dak Prescott. And I think we both agree Dak Prescott's a better quarterback than Trevor Lawrence. At least he's proven himself to be better in the NFL. You know how many passing yards Dak Prescott had in week 1? 179 yards against that defense. They put up 33 points. He had 179 yards. He was 19 to 32 passing. Cleveland's defense is pretty good. Dallas just had the ball in scoring range so much that they didn't have to move the ball. And so their defense kept them out of the end zone. He had 1 passing touchdown. Dak Prescott will give you 2 passing touchdowns a game easily.
What?
You know what I mean? Easily.
What is going to be something that, not something that we want, what is something that we need to happen to get this win on Sunday?
We need to create turnovers. We need to put pressure on the quarterback, and we need to create turnovers. And listen, I'll take 1, but I'd be very happy with 2. If the defense can play to, it has to be a better standard than what they put on the field last week, because last week was atrocious. If they can continue to put defensive pressure and force a couple of 3 and outs, maybe not 3 and outs, but get the punter on the field at least 4 times. And the offense plays at the same level it played last week. Get those tight ends involved. Continue to use. You talked about Singletary. I'm in love with Singletary right now. He's doing way better than I thought, particularly given the fact we didn't see much of him during the preseason. I really didn't know what to expect in live action, but he's met the standard. He's shown me what I needed to see. But get turnovers, apply pressure on the quarterback, and continue to move the ball down the field. Get your tight ends involved. I think you have to do that. I think Malik Neighbors has proven himself to be a threat for any defense, but they're going to double him, right? And because they're going to double him, you need to get your tight ends, your running backs involved. And I want to see some shots to Jalen Hyatt down the field.
Jalen Hyatt or you know who all reliable is?
Yeah, Darius Slayton. You can always depend on him.
It's what's going to happen is because I felt like, if a coworker of mine said, "Hey, you don't feel like you guys are throwing it to him too much? He's going to be the wide receiver version of Saquon. They're going to go out there and just game plan against him. We're banking on that. Double team him. Leave Darius Slayton by himself. Leave Jalen Hyatt. Leave him on a one-on-one, and let them earn their paychecks. Because the best wide receiver twos in the league have a solid wide receiver one.
Right. They make them better. Better.
You're by yourself at that point. You
can have a lot of decoy routes out there.
Yeah, the was it AJ? No, Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster is the perfect example of what you get when you have a solid 1 and 2. You could double.
Wait a minute. You said AJ Brown and
Antonio
Juju
Brown.
Schuster? Because when he went out on his own, he wasn't worth shit.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Antonio Brown got Juju 1,900 yards in one season. Antonio Brown left, it was gone. Because Juju is a solid number 2. Now, if you get you a good number 2, one is going to get his. Diggs is going to get his. A.J. Brown going to get his. DK going to get his. But it's the Tyler Lockett's out there.
Yeah.
It's you get you a good number 2, and it opens everything up.
Right.
You get that.
I want to ask you a question. A couple of questions, then we're going to go ahead and make our picks. But Njoku is out, right? And Njoku, I really wanted him as a tight end. I always liked him. I just think he's a really good player. Solid. Amari Cooper has been pretty much non-existent. Over the first 2 weeks of the year, he's got under 30 yards receiving, right?
You know what's going to happen.
Let's stop. Let's not even go there. Drew Phillips. What you got to say about Drew Phillips?
I love him. He's a dog. He's what we need. He brings that energy. He is everywhere the ball is.
I agree. I think Tyler Nubin and Drew Phillips are probably, at least in our division, 2 of the most underrated secondary players in our division. I think both of them are going to be very good. And I'm really grateful that they brought Adoree Jackson back, because that veteran leadership is probably helping them in the locker room, on the sideline, in ways that we don't see and hear because we're not privy to those conversations. But you can see the level of play they put on the field. I'm very excited about our secondary going up against Deshaun Watson. But I want to hear what your thoughts are on Drew Phillips, what he's showing you so far as a corner.
I feel like he has that ball hawking mentality. I feel like he hits very hard. He's very good at reading a quarterback's eyes. And I feel like he gives up very little. What I was about to say while you were talking is I feel like this rookie draft class that we have, aside from Theo Johnson right now, I still feel like he'll come into his own, is kind of the best we had in a long time, as far as we drafted them and they're on the field making immediate impact. I like when I first seen Drew Phillips, like I'm looking at him and I had to think about it. Like, man, is this guy, we got him from another team? Because he's out there playing like he just do this.
Around.
He just do this. Nubin, he looks good.
Well, Newman was the highest rated safety coming out of the draft. But I'll be honest with you. I did not expect Drew Phillips to be what he is. And I think you're right. You called it, man. It's one of the better draft classes that we've seen where Theo Johnson, like you said, he is going to be good. I think they put him into the fire too quickly. I think they should have slow walked him a little bit. But he's got all of the skill sets that you want for your tight end to be. I think Daniel Bellinger at this point is a better overall athlete right now. Part of that is because he's got some time on the field. We know who he is and what he can do. That's not taking away anything from Theo Johnson. Theo Johnson just ain't ready yet. But when he's ready, he's going to be a major contributor.
Let me tell you something. Drew Phillips is so good that he got ran into the ground by an offensive player, and he was called for holding on third down. He's that good. Mm-hmm. It was his fault that he got rushed into the ground, mm-hmm. and it gave Washington on our first time stopping these guys on third down. I'm looking at this replay. I said, what did he do wrong?
It was a bad call. It was a bad call.
I am excited about our rookies. I am excited that I feel like the New York Giants, for the first time in a very, very long time, and this includes having superstar power Saquon Barkley in the backfield. I feel like we have a foundation. When people used to ask me when Russell Wilson was still in Seattle, would y'all take Russ? I don't want Russ. Would y'all take that? I don't want this person. I don't want no superstar quarterback to go behind our offensive line and die. Nobody's going to live behind that. But now that we have a foundation, we got some receivers, our tight ends, we working on that. Mm-hmm. We got some pretty solid backs. We got a solid offensive line. And I know it's only 2 weeks, but they're already so much better than what we've had. And
let me ask you a question. Do you like the way Joe Shane has constructed this team so far? His decision to stick with Daniel Jones and not go after a quarterback, his decision to let Saquon Barkley walk and not keep him. Do you letting Xavier McKenzie walk? Do you agree with the way he's constructing the roster of this team?
Only thing I would have done different. Only one thing. I wouldn't have got rid of McKinney. He would have got paid. McKinney would have got paid. Aside from that, looking at Hard Knocks, glued to it, how it was all explained, I really do like it. I really do like Saquon ain't want to be a Giant. You know, you can't make the guy who don't want to be a Giant happy. He don't want to be.
I would dare say, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I would dare say the Giants wouldn't be no better if Saquon Barkley was here.
Yeah.
We are not suffering at the running back position at all.
Yeah. He didn't want to be there. We wanted him there as fans, but seeing the bigger picture, listening to that phone call, seeing the contract offers, he didn't want to be there, and I'm not mad. I understand why we didn't offer him the house, because we would have had an overpaid running back who was good, undeniably, but we would have been dealing with the same thing we've been dealing with since we drafted him. We would have been just that. Right. And that's not enough. And instead, we really worked on our offensive line. We didn't go in and draft offensive linemen, because that kind of, that hasn't been great. We got Andrew Thomas, but aside from that, we haven't had luck in that category. So for him to go spend the money on, Runyon and Aluminum, I feel like he did such as this year.
And Van Roten too.
Yeah, this year, I feel like before we throw Daniel Jones in the garbage, okay, we are going to set him up the best we can possibly set him up, and we're going to find out who he really is. And that's what this year is. This is your put up or shut up year for Daniel Jones. I'm happy we didn't trade for a quarterback. JJ McCarthy, it's not to say he wouldn't have gotten injured with us, but I feel like it's something that we could wait for before we give away our sixth pick and then our first pick next year. I don't know if you've seen the breakdown for what's his name in Carolina who just got benched, Bryce Young.
Bryce Young, yeah.
I do not want to be the Panthers. And that's what teams would have asked for. You want Jaden Daniels? Give me your first this year. Give me your second. Give me your first next year. Instead, giving away a number 6 pick for a quarterback that might work.
Right.
He said these words and it made me smile. He said, let's get Daniel a weapon.
Yeah, I think that the focus, I like the way that the roster has been constructed, though. I think that Joe Shane has had some horrible misses, and I think he's had some really good at-bats, right? I think his 2024 draft class, I'm digging it. I'm digging pieces from 2023. I'm digging pieces from 2022, but this year by far has been his best one. I do think, like you said, if you don't absolutely love the guy, you don't draft him. But if you love him, you do what it takes to get the guy. You bring him on your team. But you don't do any of that if you don't have a line for him. If you don't have a line, you're going to ruin him. I don't give a fuck who he is. You're going to ruin him. And once you ruin him, not only have you wasted your draft capital by bringing somebody in here who could have been a superstar, but you set your franchise back because you gave up so much to get him and you did nothing to protect him. And that's what I think the Giants are doing well. You talked about Van Roten. You talked about Illuminor. You talked about John Ron Jr., Michael Schmidt, AT. We got some players, but what I want to see is more depth. I want to see you have a healthy stable of dudes that you can rotate in and out when you need to. Injuries will occur. When you have an injury, you got somebody that can come in. I want a good swing tackle, somebody that can play the right or the left position. Maybe that's going to be Evan Neal. Maybe that's what they're going to prep him to be, is to swing behind Illuminor and AT. I don't know what they're going to do with that, but I like the way that they've been constructing this roster so far. But I want to ask you another question, because there has been some rumblings about some issues in the locker room, maybe with the coaching staff, players starting to not or to abandon Dable's philosophy and whatever. And whenever you have a season that starts off as fucked up as the Giants have, that's going to happen, right? You're going to have people that start to doubt and wonder. Somebody said Jalen Hyatt's demanded a trade. They interviewed him today. He said he never said any such thing. He don't know what they're talking about. What do you think? Is there anything going on in the locker room, behind the scenes, that's creating this undercurrent that don't need to be there, but it's messing with the player's psyche to perform on the field?
I do feel like we have, and maybe it's my bias, maybe it's just because I looked into every single player that we have on a receiver position. I feel like we have one of the best wide receiver cores in the NFL. I feel like every receiver we have will be a problem on the Rams, the Chiefs. People who really like, oh, I'm gonna throw it to you, and if you catch it, you catch it. Like, Hyatt has shown that he doesn't only have speed, he has hands. We don't get him involved. I know he didn't ask to get traded or anything like that. It's early, but we don't get him involved. He is WR4.
So that's the question. Why is he not as involved as we all collectively, as fans, seem to think he should be? What is it?
One of the things that is new this year from last year is time. We got time now. For Jalen Hyatt to run a route, it used to be no time for him to do that. There was plays designed for him last year that Daniel Jones, Tommy DeVito, Tyrod Taylor, they all found themselves on the floor before he got where he was supposed to be to get the ball. But I feel like I'm hoping it happens because he's a talented kid. I think he's even going to be better than Darius Slayton at one point. But as of right now, I don't know why we're not using Darius Slayton and Jalen Hyatt correctly. I don't know why. I feel like we're using Wandale Robinson right. We can use him better. I like that they made a focus to get Malik Neighbors the ball, but spread that love around because if you really want this offense to thrive, people got to know that you got threats everywhere. People got to feel like you got problems everywhere. But I don't. I think it's a shock to Dable. I think it's a shock to Daniel Jones. That it's just the time. We got time now, and we need to find plays that work with that. Like you could run your route. Malik Neighbors ran routes. He got from one side of the field to the other side of the field without Daniel Jones being on the floor. It was incredible. Right. It was like seeing a unicorn on the field.
So what are amazing. Are we gonna be? Because look, we play Thursday too. We play Sunday and turn around and got to play Thursday. Or are we gonna be staring at 0-3 Monday morning?
We're gonna see. We're gonna see. I feel like it's so many things that factor into it. I know on paper, I feel like we got the better offense and they got the better defense. I really feel like that. I feel like defense wins games, but I am at the point where I feel like our boys is going to perform to the point where they hear it. We're not out of it. The season's not over. It's not time to tank for a draft pick or anything like that. I feel like we got enough fight in us. We more mad than they are.
I think we have just as much chances being 1-2 as we do being 0-3. And I would give the edge to 1-2. Am I ready to commit to that? I don't know that I am because I don't know that we're going to get the pressure from Thibodeau and Burns that we need. If they showed me more, I'd be more likely to commit to saying, yeah, I can definitely see that happen. I can see it happening, but do I feel confident about it? I don't think I do. Only because I haven't seen enough from them in terms of effort, commitment to get and bring the quarterback down. I just haven't seen it. I mean, Jason Pinnock has more sacks than Thibodeau and Burns combined. Jason Pinnock, he's a safety. That should not be what we're talking about right now. I mean, we do have probably a pretty decent pressure rate, but the pressure rate hasn't resulted in turnovers or sacks to the degree that we want them to. And that's easily evidenced by the fact that Washington went 7 drives and scored 7 times. That should never happen. Don't get me wrong. There were some parts of the defense that you could hang your hat on and feel good about, but by and large, you don't. I agree with you 150%. If I can say 150%. Our offense is better than their offense. Hands down, we got the better wide receiving core. Hands down, with Njoku out, we got the better tight ends on the field. Hands down, we got the better running back room. Hands down, we got the better offensive line because they have 2 of their offensive linemen that ended up on an injury report this week. They're off it now and they're listed as questionable but will likely play, but they're dealing with something. Hands down, we have the best chance offensively to do something when you look at these two teams and how they compare at their different positions. Will we do it? I don't know, man. You know, we like your early 2000 New York Knicks. If it could go wrong, it's gonna go wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm hoping we're gonna stay away from that. I don't want to see Amari Cooper. I don't want to hear them say, "This is the Deshaun Watson we had 4 years ago." I don't want to hear them.
This is why they brought him to Cleveland.
I don't want to hear none of that. We gotta keep this man dead. We gotta keep him. He's got to show he's got to show this team something. We want to keep that mindset. But I
Yeah.
feel like we do such a good job
High
kickstart
scoring, low scoring. What do you see? What are you seeing?
my prediction. And either way, I think the winning team will have 21 and the losing team will have 17. But right now, I'm gonna say that we're gonna be on the winning side of that. That's how I
Mm.
feel. I was gonna ask you before we wrap this up. I was gonna ask you, do you feel like we're gonna have consistency in our offense? Do you feel like our offense? One thing about our offense is going to be a sure thing every week, and if so, what is that?
A sure thing every week.
Yeah,
I think that the Giants' offensive line is really good at run blocking, and I think they're going to open up some good holes for Singletary. I think Tyrone Tracy Jr. is going to have a good game. I think the running game is going to set it up so that DJ has a decent game. I also think, and this is me being a homer, 100% being a homer, right? I also think that Brian Dable is starting to get his stride as a play caller again. I think that because he's getting his stride, he's got a running game that I believe he feels like he can depend on. And the only thing I don't like is he went from heavy tight end participation in week 1 to no tight end participation in week 2. I don't like that.
crazy.
That shows some inconsistency. But I do think that that's all a part of him getting into his stride. I think he's going to find a little bit of that this week. And I think the Giants are going to eke out a win. I think the Giants are going to win this game. The Cleveland Browns cannot put up NFL points in a game. They just can't. They're scoring like 17 points and 16 points or whatever the hell it is. They just don't put up the scoring points that they did when Baker was there, which I think they're definitely regretting at this point. But I'm going to say it's going to be, and this is going to be stretching it a little bit, but I think they are capable. I'm going to say 27-17 Giants.
I would take that.
Right now.
I would take that. I'm going to put a ticket in for that number right there.
Yeah. 27-17. There's going to be a lot of different people saying on the podcast and then the Monday Morning Quarterback saying, Daniel Jones still ain't shit, though. He might have threw 2 touchdowns this week and last week, but he ain't shit. Singletary, I like that kid, though, but then he still ain't shit. That's what's going to be happening Monday
Daniel
morning.
Jones stock going up?
I don't think his stock's going to go up until he wins 4 games. If Daniel Jones turns this into 4-2, his stock going way up. Way up. But it ain't going to happen from this game. It'll happen if he wins this game. Quick turnaround to play the Cowboys in week 4 on a Thursday night game. And then I don't know who they play after that. But if he's able to do that, I can see his stocks improving.
We if the Giants beat the Cowboys on Thursday, I'm gonna get ignorant. I'm gonna get ignorant.
I want to see ignorant move. I want to see ignorant move.
It's gonna happen.
I'm gonna put in a call. Hey, listen. I like the way you talked about. You said Drew Phillips. He out there. He a dog, right? We already know Malik Neighbors a dog, right? We seen some guys bringing that dog out. I want to see that so bad. I remember 3-4 years ago, maybe 2 years ago, you were talking about the Giants is just too much of good old boys.
They good
go
guys.
out there and they want to look all polished and proper and correct. Like, fuck that. I want to see some dogs.
Yeah.
Got that now.
Yeah, we got some dogs. They used to go out there and get bullied, and they would take our lunch. And I'm not saying that we're still losing games, but there's a difference between getting bullied and getting your lunch taken and losing.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. Well, I'm looking forward to the game this Sunday. That's another show for us. The Blue Zone New York Football Giants podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Tell a friend. Share the page. See us again when we recap this week's game. Talk about the next week. So we don't know when we're gonna film our next one, but it'll be in between the Browns and the Cowboys.
All right, and also let us know what you want us to add on here. If it's anything else you guys want us to cover, what y'all want us to talk about. We just some passionate Giants fans. We love our boys, but we keep it real. And we will see you next time.
That's right, y'all. Go Big Blue, New York Giants.
Go Big Blue, baby.
Peace.